this computer. Okay, today we're going to be talking to Rachel, who is, I have the pleasure of talking to. She's one of our success stories, and we were talking a little bit before we started recording and a bit about how she did things differently, and she admitted she broke the no contact rule multiple times, so we're eager to hear about that. But mostly what we'd like to do is get to the bottom of what Rachel did that's different from everyone else who isn't succeeding in winning their exes back. So first off, how are you doing, Rachel?
I'm good. This was a last minute thing and we just, popped in
Yeah,
here.
it was very organic how it worked out. So I'm pretty sure you showed up to a few of the Facebook Lives. Am I remembering that right? So
Yes.
there's so many people that show up. It's hard for me to, I just have like the little thumbnail, they have on Facebook. And if they change the thumbnail, I'm confused again. So I'm pretty sure I remember your thumbnail. So I think I remember a bit of your situation. You did not have a really easy breakup, did you?
It was, I've been in about 3 serious relationships, and this was actually probably the worst breakup I've ever had. I was in a new low.
Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about how the breakup occurred first off, before we kind of get into what you did.
Okay, so me and my now boyfriend, because we got back together, but he was in the military, and he just got out this summer, so we've been long distance for our whole year and a half.
So he got back from being deployed? Is that what you're saying?
So he ended his contract with the military, so he's officially out.
Quit.
He's now back being a college student. Yes.
Okay, so he's back to the daily grind of being the college kid.
Yes, sort of, because with COVID.
Oh yeah, the COVID thing kind of. So it's like more like a digital college now, from what
we're doing basically.
Yeah,
he's
basically.
Actually, here this morning doing classes on his laptop. So.
Okay, so he's in the military. He quits the military, and I'm assuming this spawns a breakup of some sort.
Well, actually, no. He was still in the military when we had all of this process. Yes. And he came back to where I'm at in the beginning of July. The breakup actually was in February. So what I was getting at was, so he was in a desert somewhere, and his grandmother had passed. And it was basically a second mother. He lived with her for a few years, and she had passed unexpectedly while he was out in the desert. So they actually had to, emergency Red Cross had to get involved and bring him back for the funeral. And I, at the time, was going through a really stressful time at work. I was working, 60-hour weeks, and I kind of just it was not fun. This was pre-COVID. Yeah, it was pre-COVID, so it was, I'm in the hospitality industry, so it was popping at the time. And
well, that took a change.
Now it's dead. And so I basically had a mental breakdown at the worst time possible.
So define mental breakdown. Like, when you say mental breakdown, what are some of the symptoms that you exhibit?
So he was back with his family, and I have a dog, and I was going to come up and stay with his family for a couple of days while they were doing the funeral. And I was going to bring my dog with, I was asking if I could bring my animal with me. And he was like, sure, let me just ask my family. And for some reason that I have a interesting relationship with his mother. She's not my biggest fan. So when he I'm going to ask her, I was like, no, I don't want her to dislike me even more. And I'm putting, a burden on their family with a dog. So somehow that might, me being, a very hormonal woman, that just set me off, and we just got in this huge fight. And I started dumping all of this stress on him.
The dog is essentially the catalyst.
Yes.
And then when you get into this fight, it's just you're throwing things out of left field that have nothing to do with it.
And he's just what the heck is going on? I hadn't seen him in 2 months because he was, serving. And
so there's a lot of anxiety and maybe
because I had moved to a new state. I didn't have anybody out here. So that's the mental breakdown. I moved to a new state. My family's, states away. I was living by myself. He was gone, and it just working 60-hour weeks. It just atomic bomb.
It was like the volcano building up. It took a dog to set it off.
Yeah, my precious dog just. Yes. So I blame her sometimes, not really, but.
Okay. All right. So this is when the breakup occurs, I'm assuming.
Yes, this is the day of the breakup. Yeah.
So this is the catalyst for the breakup, this gigantic fight. Now, are you fighting
this is through text, which is the stupidest thing ever, because he was literally in the airport about to fly home when this was happening. Yeah.
And you get on the plane, so you lose connection. You can't text anyone. It's just simmering, so you get off the plane and you're just.
And then it starts again.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a lot at once. And like now we look back at it and I'm like, I was an idiot. So it was, and I really just should have called him and just like had communicated properly about it. But you know, at the time,
do you feel this fight, like, was there a reason that you didn't try to escalate it over to the phone or talk in person?
It was really late at night. It was like
safer?
1 a.m., 2 a.m. because I had just gotten off work and he was in the airport in the middle of a desert about to fly home.
Okay. All right. So who breaks up with who here?
So that was that night he was flying back into where we're at, and so he finally shows up, and I'm like, you know, calling him several times, texting him, blowing up his phone, and he's just trying to be there for his family for, you know, this funeral, and I was being very selfish at the time. I was like, I need help, me, when he's, you know, and he's the eldest of 3 boys, so he was trying to be there for his mother, and, you know, he couldn't be at 2 places at once because I live an hour away from where his parents are.
Okay, so
I'm like, I need your help. And he's like, well, my family needs me. So it's basically like an ultimatum. And he picked the family. And he was just like, look, I'm done. Like, I don't want to talk to you. Like,
okay.
And so my crazy butt decided to drive up there.
Okay.
So literally, when I say my story is similar in a lot of ways to other women, I did the whole like being crazy, texting nonstop, calling nonstop. I showed up unexpectedly.
You were the classic Nat then. You went nuts at texting.
When you hear Nat, when I watch your videos with natting, I'm like, yeah, that was me. So I go up there and I'm not banging on his door. We go to a park that's like outside of his neighborhood, and he, you know, reluctantly meets me. And I like communicated then, like, look, I'm stressed, all this.
Right.
And we started, you know, communicating properly face to face. Because we've been in a long distance relationship for so long, the phone was kind of like our only means of communication. Haven. Yeah, so that's kind of why I didn't switch over to a phone call, because normally I can't call him because, you know, he's out of signal somewhere. So we started talking face to face. I thought we were fine, but as I'm driving home, he calls me. He's like, no, I can't do this. I've been thinking about it. I think we need to go our separate ways, and you need to find someone there that can take care of you.
Okay, so
like I was like, but you're getting out of the military in like 6 months.
So to me, it just seems like an absolute matter of timing. Like you.
Oh yeah, if this had happened any other time, it would have been fine.
Yeah, you were like stressed from 60-hour weeks. Yeah. Everything was just kind of happening at once, and then he's stressed because of this passing he had and having to be there for the family. He feels like you're putting him in the middle a little bit, and he just sort of, you know, fight or flight. He's like,
and it was wedged into such a small time because he could only be home for like 4 days, and then he had to go
still
back
in the military, right?
Yeah, and he was a non-commissioned officer, so he's in charge of, you know, 40 guys. When he gets back, he has to make sure they're eating.
On his mind.
And I just put a hot spoke right in
right. You're like, deal with this. Okay, so all right.
So neither one of us, after the breakup, were in a good spot. He just happened to have distractions because of being in the middle. You know, he got to be a man in dirt and guns and all that kind of stuff. So he put his anger out through his, you know, his guys.
Shot a few targets, you know.
And, you know, that day, like, that was the end of February. And then 2 weeks later, you know, I get furloughed because of COVID. So it's like I got hit with a double whammy of, you know, losing my boyfriend who, you know, I hoped to marry one day. And then I lost my job, my dream job, because I just had graduated college. And this was my first big girl job. And then so
it was sort of like your career. Essentially, you get furloughed. So that is another negative hit on just things going. And you'll be surprised at how often your story is resonating with so many people, because it's really hit or miss who I'm talking to with the COVID furlough thing. I mean, like half the people I talk to are furloughed from work, half the people aren't, and work picks up for them. It's just like this really weird thing. I've seen lots of breakups because of COVID, though.
And I know, like, when I joined ERP, like, literally the day I got furloughed, because I was like, I'm SOL, like, what's left? Because I kept natting him, I kept texting him, and, you know, he's in the desert.
You're trying everything to get his attention.
I'm grasping at straws.
At what point do you take to, because I'm assuming you probably go to Google and you start typing in, like, how do I get my ex back, or I'm doing this wrong, or I'm doing
literally
this wrong.
And I came across your quiz.
Okay, so you took the quiz, and then the quiz is probably promoting the program itself. And then you get the program, and you get into the Facebook group.
Yes.
What happens then? Because usually I notice it's like a 50-50 split between people who, like, some people never just read the program. They just use the Facebook group for the Facebook group, which I think is a mistake. I think people should always get through the program. But even when people read the program, they still don't kind of stick to some of the stuff. What was your experience with that?
No, I'm a bookworm, so I read it, and then I actually had purchased your Ungettable Girl workbook because at that time
Oh yeah, I've got it back there somewhere.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw
I was
it was
like,
one of your Facebook lives, and I was like, huh, I'll do that because I'm a very organized person. I like writing
yeah.
things down, and if it's a step-by-step thing, I honestly felt like I was trying to get rid of a drug addiction because it was such a loss,
Well, that's what it feels like. So one
Yeah.
thing maybe you don't know is like when you go through a breakup, the same part of your brain that lights up is the same part of the brain that lights up when a cocaine addict is going through
Mm-hmm.
withdrawal. It is literally like getting rid of a drug addiction.
Mm-hmm. And I had coaching with Anna, and she had said that same thing too.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So you did the whole 9 yards.
I did the whole 9 yards, and I honestly feel like, a much better person. Because like when I had purchased it and read it, and I was on a step-by-step thing, I was like, I don't know who I am anymore, because I was so, I technically moved here for a job, but it just so happened to be the same state he was going to move back to when he got out of the military. So my dad says I moved out here for a boy. I did not. It was a job.
It
It just
just
happened
happened
to
to
be in
work
the
out
same
that way.
state.
Okay.
Yes. And I had just moved out here basically for him, and I was like, so what do I do now? I don't have a job anymore. I don't I lost him. So
You got lots of time on your hands, I
yeah,
guess.
I tucked my tail in between my legs and moved back with my mom I was only furloughed for 8 weeks.
Okay.
And so
That's
I
not too
got
bad.
my job back about May, so about Memorial Day actually. So then
So you get all the program and everything,
mhm.
and did you stop texting him?
At the day I bought the program, I which I really didn't feel like it was a purchase anyways, because it was just like, what else? What's next? And so I texted him like which sometimes you're like stop in some of your videos you're like just stop talking to him.
Yeah.
But I did I read on another page.
Yeah.
It was like, if you've been natting, which they used a different term, like send this text, apologize, and then be done
Oh
with
yeah,
it.
so it's sort of like a primer text before you get into a no contact type
Which
of.
I didn't tell him, like, I'm going into no contact. It was just like, I'm sorry for the breakup and how I
Okay.
responded to it. Like, I just wish you the best. And,
What was your take on that strategy? Do you feel like that had any impact on the overall success that you ended up having, or do you feel like it was just kind of
it was kind of,
average?
I felt like the no contact was the big thing because our phone's been our lifeline for having a long distance relationship.
Mhm.
And, sorry, my dog is getting all up in my
Oh no, you're
business.
fine. You're fine.
And when I stopped talking to him, he was still in the desert at the time. And I feel like, he's probably thinking, when is she going to stop? Because because it was about 2 or 3 weeks where I was being a gnat, and I slowly just like was stopped. Because my friends are like, you need to stop. He's telling you to give him space and time to think, and you're not.
Mm.
And I actually went to see a therapist as well. And she was like, she did this thing where she stood up out of her chair and like got up all in my face, and I was like this.
Yeah.
And she's like, that reaction is basically what you're doing to your boyfriend right now, because you're like,
Oh, the
oh, there she is.
physical. Oh, that's a
Hello.
beautiful dog.
Thank you. She's very annoying right now. If you want to go home. But she was like getting all up in my face, and she's like, that's what you're doing. You're like literally pinning him in a corner right now. And my guy, he's not the best with emotions. He's a Marine, so he's
So
not a very much. I would say he's
communication
an
wasn't the best
avoidant
for him.
because like he's really good at communicating when he has time to think about it.
Okay.
And I wasn't giving him that time to think about it. So when my therapist was like got up all in my face, and I'm very claustrophobic, that's like kind of when it clicked. I was like, I need to stop. And that was the
So
same day I got into the Facebook group. So I was just like, goodbye, like, not really
okay, so
goodbye, just like
you
have a
send
nice
basically
life, kind
right,
of.
right. You send kind of like the re-breakup type
Mm-hmm.
text type thing to, I guess, kind of pre-warn them because you feel like it's the right thing to do, and you do
Mm-hmm.
get into a no contact rule. But before we even start recording, you said you broke it a bunch of times. Tell
Yes,
me about that.
because like he's basically on the back of a Humvee in front of a 50 caliber gun, and I'm calling him, and he's like, and I was like, he's like, just stop trying to get us back together. And that's kind of also the trigger where I was like, okay, like he's serious. Because
So did you how many false starts did you have in no contact, I guess is the question I'm getting at.
so when I started, I was like, I need to follow this program wholeheartedly. It was only twice, but there was 2 to 3 weeks. She is just insane right now. It was 2 to 3 weeks of that natting, and I would say probably twice in there too. So I basically broke no contact like 4 times.
4 times. Okay.
Yes.
So when it
So my
finally
chances are just
yeah, right. So when it finally took for good, how long of a period of no contact did you actually make?
I was like, I need to do the 45 since it was such a bad
Mm,
breakup, and I was natting, so I decided to do a 45, and I got to about the like 18-day mark. That's the first time I broke it because I had posted in a Facebook Live, like we had PlayStations that were linked together,
okay.
and
I kind of feel like was this during my Facebook Live?
yeah, it was during your Facebook Live, and I
I'm
said
pretty sure I
personal
remember something like
belonging
this.
issues or something
Yeah.
is what I
Okay.
said.
So
Yeah.
it turned out to be two PlayStations that are linked, so you can like see each other's updates. Is that kind of?
We were linked because we could game share because I was cheap and didn't want to buy games that he had on his
Oh,
console.
I didn't even know you could
And
do that.
yes, yeah, if you like log in under their account, uh, and somehow it got messed up, so I was like I essentially had locked us both out of our PlayStations, and
So you communicate essentially to fix that issue.
yes, because he had to get on his and like log off and stuff, and that's the first time I broke it, and then I tried calling. Well, I did call him and he picked up because he was. This was when he got out of the desert. Is when I waited,
Okay.
and it turned into like I should have just left it out there. Even Anna was like, you just need to ask that, fix it, and then be done. But me
Yeah.
being me, I'm like, so
Oh
kind
God,
of
you
like
try to extend it more. So
yes,
she was
and
just like, if you're gonna break it, just stick to the business at hand. But you
hmm
kind of
hmm
springboarded it into more.
and so we talked for like an hour, and then we hung up, and I was like, dang it. So then I restarted it, and yeah, I got to. It was about, I would say, like it was like day 40, 41, where I was going with a friend to because she had just graduated and she was moving back, so I was helping her move from our university back to her state, and she has a lake house, so we started hanging out, and I guess he saw on my social media I was hanging out with guys from her hometown, and I think that's like what triggered him, because he even said like you should find someone there, and I wasn't even. I had no intent to
Right. You just
date
were
any of
putting
those guys.
yourself in the situation where there would be other men
Hmm.
around, and he reached out, I'm assuming.
Yes, and so like during that second no contact is when I had the Ungettable Girl workbook, and I did use social media to my advantage. I posted pictures, which is hard with COVID right
Yeah, it's
now. It was
really hard.
that's what I saw a lot of girls posting about that. It's like, how do I do this because we're not allowed to go anywhere. And I'll admit, there was like 6 weeks in there where I just did not leave my room. Like my mom
Mm.
brought me food. Like I just was like huddled. Like I didn't
Oh.
eat. Yeah, it was bad. And so
So
I got that.
it took you a while to kind of get out of the depressive state that the breakup put you in.
Mhm.
6 weeks where your
Yes.
mom is essentially nursing you back to health.
Yeah, I was like, at one point she came and she's like, "Are you just ever gonna get out of bed?" I was like, "No, no, I'm
Oh.
not."
So
And
what trigger was it? Just simply just time that kind of triggers you out of that state?
well, me and my mom went to, we have property down on the Gulf Coast, so she took me, and that's kind of where I was like, hey, like I could use this to social media, like
Yeah.
advantage, and make it seem like I'm going out, which, I literally like took a picture of the beach and then like walked back inside and went on the bed. So,
Well, that's what you got to do sometimes. The baby
and
steps, you
so I
know?
started doing that, and I had been posting pictures throughout, and I think that was like, it was, it's me in a bathing suit. So he started liking that picture, and I'm like, oh, well, you like that, but the other like couple I've posted in the
So did it kind of like springboard from there after you got that one like that gave you
one
the
like, I was like,
confidence?
oh, I got his attention again. Because
Mhm.
I would see that he would like I never blocked him or anything, and I would see he would like all of my friends' stuff, but never would like any of my stuff. And I'm just like, okay, cool. You only know these people because of me.
Right.
And
It's almost like a passive aggressive way of saying like I'm paying attention but not to you,
yes,
but I'm really paying attention to you.
yes, I was like grasping at straws, looking into all the minor details. And so then so fast forward, that was like how I started the social media. Then that's when he reached out, is when he saw me hanging out, with other guys. And, it just, that was about end of April, beginning of May. So that was about day 40, 41. And we just started talking. Like
So
there was no,
so he reaches out and then it just kind of goes from there.
it was through Snapchat. And then, It was just like small texting, because I don't think I followed the program with the texting phase, because it's just like because about day 40, 41, when I was going, helping my friend move, we, how would I put it? I was just like, hey, I'm going back to the state we're from. And I was like, do you need anything from your mom or anything? And that's kind of how it like rolled into, then he notices me hanging out with guys that weekend, and I guess that's what set him off. So I didn't really have like I followed the texting Bible a little bit, like after that FaceTime call. I kind of was doing the push and pull method, because I a couple months ago I was blowing up his phone nonstop.
Yeah.
And I didn't do the wait 10 days, like 7 to 10 days. I never did that. We just kind of continued conversation.
I'm noticing that trend where it's just almost like once you get the conversation going, you just want to keep it as organic as possible and just sort of feel it out a little bit. Is that the approach you kind of took?
Yeah, because I felt bad, because I'd see girls posting and saying like, is this right? Is this right? And they were like, so like they had their whole conversations planned, and I'm like, I don't want to.
So you didn't really do that. Okay.
I personally, I thought that part of the program, it does work for some people, I know, but like I was like, that's kind of bogus. I feel like it's staged a little bit.
Okay, so you felt you didn't want any inauthenticity to come through in your interactions with him. You wanted everything to seem authentic because it was authentic. Now,
and the one thing I did keep to heart, though, is leaving conversation, because I would always hear you talk about this.
That's a big thing.
Who doesn't start it, who ends it, and that's the big thing I was trying to.
And do you feel that that was accurate advice based on your experience?
Yes, because I've always been his person. He would always complain about his job and stuff, and I'd always be the person that would just stay up late to hear about him, and then he would fall asleep on me. So when I'd be like, oh, I gotta go, I think that's kind of who is this person now? She never has time for me anymore.
Now, do you feel doing that? Did you notice him actually start reaching out to you more after you did that?
Because I will say I initiated several times, and then when he started picking up that I was leaving conversation, that's when he was like, oh, like let me go after her a little bit.
Okay.
And then when he saw me because I never went on dates with anybody in the no contact period because of COVID, and I personally just didn't want to, because that's the person I wanted him. But I would be talking to other guys, and nice attention. I never got a dating app or anything. It's just people I knew, and it was a confidence booster. And then I started working out, eating right, because I, for 6 weeks was basically lethargic, as my mom says it. And I think just all that at once, when he started re-talking to me, he does admit, like, he saw me in a different light.
Okay.
He's like, this is the girl that I, when I first saw, like, I fell in love with, because he was noticing I was slowly cracking since Christmas because of work and stress and moving and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, this is the girl that I remember. Okay. He's like, you're basically glowing, you're beautiful, is something that he quoted, and I like screenshotted that text because I was like, oh. So
at what point, so from what I gather, you are texting back and forth, or did you pretty quickly move on to talking on the phone?
Yes,
or was that even an option?
Yes, because he was back in his barracks at his base, and we were texting, Snapchatting, and I would be leaving conversations. And the hardest part about the breakup was because that was my best friend too. Like, we would FaceTime every single day, and it was just like cutting a drug cold turkey. So we moved to phone calls and FaceTimes pretty quick, just because that's what we used to do.
Okay.
And I know you talk about like breaking habits is like 66 days. It hadn't been 6 days like fully through all this breaking of no contact, so it's kind of just like came back easily. FaceTiming all the time. So, and I would leave the FaceTimes quickly too.
But did you notice like the conversations improving when you changed mediums like that, from just texting each other to seeing each other in person, or not in person, but like through face to face, like we are here?
Yeah. The conversations would get deeper, because, and again, that was one reason the breakup occurred, was because it was over text, and tone, emotions doesn't come through text, and so when we got to FaceTimes, I feel like our communication is actually better than ever now because of no contact and not being able to talk, because we had so much to talk about for not talking for a month and a half. And so they got more deeper conversations. And at one point it got so deep where he's like, I've never stopped loving you through this period. I just didn't know what to say.
Oh, so that's almost like you got him back at that point, essentially.
I kind of knew, like, at that point, like, I could do this. And then because of COVID, his base was locked down. So when it it opened up around Memorial Day, I had planned going up there. And that was like, you talk about like planning a big meetup, because we are
long distance.
We were long distance at the time. And so I went up there and hung out for a weekend. And then actually that's like while I was up there is when I got the call back like, hey, we need you back at work in like 3 days. So then I have to fly back home and turn around and drive 14 hours and
that's a long way
at work.
To drive.
So it's funny. I lost him and my job at the same time. And then I kind of got him back and my job back at the same time.
They're connected.
I was like, I don't know how, but he hadn't asked me to be his girlfriend yet. He felt like he wanted to get back. Like once he ended his contract with the military, he wanted to get back and we date a little bit, because we've always, with the long distance relationship, I'd come up for a weekend or a week and we always were vacationing kind of together. Okay. So we never felt like we really dated. So he came back home about 6 weeks after that meetup and we started going on dates actually. And his mother was especially not my biggest fan after the breakup, because, she thought I directly was insulting her because I was doing it with her mother's passing. So she was very hesitant to us talking again. And I actually went up to his family's house for his birthday and kind of it was awkward, I will admit. And he wanted me to apologize to her, and me being stubborn, I'm like, why? Because I apologized to her back, around the breakup.
Well, I think he's just trying to play peacekeeper, especially if he ends up marrying you. He's like, I don't want these two women, cats and dogs.
Because his father's family never accepted her, and I feel like she's kind of doing it to me, even before the breakup.
It's really common. My best friend growing up, his mom was a lot like that to the girlfriends he would bring home. And I'd
and that's her baby boy. That's her firstborn son. So that's her baby, and she my mom. I have a brother, and it was my mom says when your boy dates a girl, you either have to accept her or you're gonna just fight her the whole time. And she ended up accepting my sister-in-law.
How did you approach? So did you kind of apologize to her?
That's the thing. I haven't really said I'm sorry yet. This is the battle I'm fighting right now, is getting her to like me.
I have a way that you can sort of clear the air, but you have to kind of check your ego at the door. Mm-hmm. So the best thing to do in situations like that is to actually come up and the first thing you should do is just lay it out all on the table. So like, hey, I know you feel this, and I know you feel this, and I know you feel this. And then she'll kind of be a little bit more willing to listen to what you have to say after you kind of hit her with everything she's thinking inside. Mm-hmm. But some people just aren't willing to do that, because we're stubborn by nature. And it seems like you kind of
I am stubborn, but the hardest thing is she's got 3 boys and a husband, and the family's always over. So I'm always going to a house that has, 37 people in it. So I don't want to do it in front of everyone. And
well, you can take her in another room or something and say, hey, could I talk to you or something?
And I've tried during his birthday, I tried doing that, but everyone keeps busting in, and I'm like, so next time I go out there is when I'm gonna do it, because I said it in Anna's Facebook Live this weekend about it, and she gave me some pretty good advice. But so
I'd take her out for well, I guess you can't do that now, can you?
You can in Texas, but
oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
No, I do have some questions getting off the mom topic. Mm-hmm. I mean, we could probably chat
That's my current situation. But after we dated for a little bit and his birthday, and I met his family again, I think that's when he was like, okay, I'm ready. And 2 or 3 days later, he asked me to be his girlfriend again.
So when you look back at the whole situation, did you feel what do you feel like was the most important thing to your success? Just your opinion on it.
Focusing on myself and refinding myself, because even though I love my job and it just was, I got dealt a horrible hand of cards, it really changed. I had to grow up really fast. I always feel like I'm pretty adultish, but moving on my own, and this is when I officially have been financially cut off from my family. My dad was like, oh, you graduated, done. I don't pay for anything else. He's like, I
graduated from college or high school?
College.
Okay, college. He at least gave you those 4 years to get the college degree. Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, I've paid for you for 23 years, so I'm done.
Okay.
And
That's what we call a baptism by fire. Just
yes.
putting them out there in the world.
And so I would say refining myself, because I really didn't recognize myself. And even my friend said that. The girl who actually set me and my guy up, she was like, I don't recognize you anymore, because I'd be calling her all the time, like, what do you think I should do? Like, because they're friends.
Right.
And she was like, you just need to relax. And
so what did you do to refine yourself? What were some of the things that you
kind of like what you say with the trilogy? I was focusing on my health, because I actually had lost 15 pounds because of the breakup, because I just stopped eating for like
really
yeah.
So I see it's like either hit or miss. Some people eat everything in sight, and that would be like me, and then some people just stop. And
Which is funny, because I am an emotional eater. I usually eat when I'm sad, but like this, I wouldn't even call it, just because I have struggled with depression, anxiety past. I don't even know what this was. Like, I just shut off.
Well, I guess
completely.
they do say sometimes one of the side effects is you lose your appetite when you go through highly emotional breakups. So it's probably a bit of that, but I've also seen it swing the other way. So
yeah, because I didn't eat for several days. I was crying myself to sleep for probably a total of 2 weeks. Like, it was bad. Like,
so the breakup hit hard for you.
It was the first one and hopefully the last one, where like I felt my heart get ripped out of my chest.
So you've had breakups before, but this one just stung. Do you feel it stung so much because you felt like this was your person, like you're supposed to marry him, and now you lost it? So that's why it hurt so bad?
And I understand he was going through the same kind of grief, because he had just lost basically his second mother, and then me too. So he got hit with a double whammy. But I feel it. But he had distractions, so I kind of had to find. I stayed in bed for several weeks, and then when
you're furloughed, so you have that on top of everything. So it seems very stressful.
And so I started, eating better, and I've always been athletic, but because of college and work, I've slowly let myself go over the past couple of years. So I was like, I need to get back into shape. So I started going to this was before gyms were like shut down. So I started working out from home and at gyms. And actually, my good friend, we were like FaceTiming yoga together. And I would post that on social media for kind of making myself look better. I would, post the screenshots on Facebook, on Instagram. And so that was that. And then trying to get myself financially better, because obviously COVID slashed through my financial on that. And then what's the other one in the trilogy? Health, wealth,
and relationships. So did you like make new friends or something? Or
I made new friends. Technically, it was through gaming.
Okay,
so online friends a little bit.
I mean, technically that counts, and sometimes all you really need to do is focus on two, because the two will kind of bring up, and it seems like to you, so much of your relationships was matched up with him, and that just like took a hit. So it's almost like it's kind of hard to explore other things in that realm, because it feels
it was just a bad, like 2020 has just not been a good year, like whatsoever.
I think it's been better than you think. You went through some ups and downs, but maybe in the end it made you realize how important this guy is, and maybe the same with him to you.
So I focused on making because I let myself go for those first couple weeks. So just getting that back, and then trying to, pick up my sad little bank account and then make friends, mostly online. I talked to some girls through the Facebook group too, with my battle buddy, and some of the other girls, because I'd post things and they're like, oh, our situation sounds similar, and we'd talk. And because I was just looking for anything, because every day I'm a talker. Like, when I have a problem, I talk it out right then and there. He wants to he's like my mother. He needs a couple days time to process it, and then talk it. And that was like one of the reasons I natted, because I wanted to fix it right then and there. And he's like, stop.
Well, his communication style is different than yours, and sometimes that can be hard for someone like you to grasp, because you're like, let's just fix it,
I'm a problem solver, and our communication has gotten better now. And now that we're seeing each other more, because he's officially, with me, like not living with me, but back in the state that we're in. And so like our communication has really gotten better versus just having to talk on the phone all the time, because we're states away.
So tactic wise, so I mean, you talked about the self-improvement thing, and I'm happy to hear you say that, because that's the number one trend I see people cite. But tactic wise, like when it came to, so you mentioned ending conversations first. You mentioned actually transitioning from texting to FaceTime. Like, what do you feel was like really worked for you tactic wise?
I think the biggest thing, he said it, is just seeing my confidence come out more, because like I had been working on myself, and he's just like, I reminded him.
So like the social media posts that you're
Social media
posting?
posts, and then when we got to FaceTiming, he and I would end conversations, I was busy, even though I really wasn't. I'd make myself, because I'm not paying attention to him as much, because I always had been his person to go to. And my mom's always was saying that. My mom was been through it. My poor mom was my therapist during this whole thing.
But she
And
loves you so much to be able to do that, right?
yeah, and
You
so
got
God
such a
bless
good
her.
mom.
If I could be
Seriously.
half the mom she could be, then I would be set for life. And she was like, you were his person too, because every day I'd be like, I just want to talk to him, and she's like, I know, but like, it'll, because when I told her I got into this program, she was like, she's old school, like really old
There,
school.
yeah, I get it.
Because when you talk about like don't talk to many people, because I was getting so many opinions, because me being me and being a problem solver, I was talking to a lot of people like, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do, and some people were like, just leave him. If he wants to leave you, then that. And so when we got back to talking, I think just showing him that I'm the girl that he remembers from our first date, I think that was the biggest thing. And then ending conversations so I didn't look busy. I mean, I did look busy.
So you did look busy, right?
Yeah.
So do you feel, so one thing that I've been also trying to advise people on recently, and I'd love to get your take on this, is trying to find something that you feel is more important than him. Do you ever feel like you got to a point where you found something like that?
I think the job I started treating more important to him.
Okay. So was that helpful in just coping or getting kind of realigning yourself after the breakup?
Yes, because I had just lost my job and my boyfriend, and so I technically had gotten my job back before, uh, like he asked me to be his girlfriend again. So like when I got that, was focusing on work and like making myself better at work, and I think that uh, showed him that like my attention can go elsewhere, not just all on you.
So, because to me, it seems like the big problem that you had was your like focus was so much on fixing things after this big blow up that you had,
Mm-hmm.
and he maybe thinks like, well, she doesn't have anything else other than just this.
Mm-hmm.
And that maybe just drew him back a little bit. So do you
Oh, yeah.
think him seeing these
I was not
other,
very attractive looking at the end of that breakup.
I don't
I was
I
very
don't know if
desperate
that has
looking.
more. I think more than anything, it has to do with your focus. Like it seems like you're obsessive about this breakup, and then maybe
Mm-hmm.
putting your focus on other things is intriguing to him because he thought he had you pegged a certain way, and then he
Mm-hmm.
realizes he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what your mom was trying to say. Like she's like, hey, you're focusing, or your therapist. She was like in your face.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of so it's kind of good that you got lots of different perspectives on the
I think I got a
problem.
little too many perspectives, because I would talk to a lot
Yeah,
of people
that's
about
that's a
it.
that's a true. There is such a thing as too many chefs in the kitchen, so to
Oh, and
speak.
I work in a kitchen, so yeah, I understand
Yeah,
that
right.
perfectly.
So
Like it's
what do you feel like going forward is your next steps with him? So I mean, he's kind of are you guys long distance anymore?
no, so he doesn't live with me. He lives with his parents right now, because he didn't want to live in a dorm when he went back to school, because he did 2 years and then military, now is doing his last 2 years. So he's living with his parents right now, and he'll stay a couple nights here like when my days off for work. And so our thing right now is kind of just dating, honestly, because we met while we were long distance from the start,
Wow.
and
Well, I
now
mean,
it's
that says a lot about you though, because it takes a lot to get into a long distance relationship off the bat. I mean, you
mm-hmm.
really have to like that
A
person.
lot of my relationships have been long distance, and my mom at some point's like, do you purposely get in relationships with people like you don't have to deal with? And I'm like, no, it just happens that way, that I date someone and then they have to move somewhere. And so now like we're just focusing on dating, because during our reconciliation time, my mom's like, you need to be careful just jumping feet first back in with him, because what if he moves back and y'all end up hating each other after a couple months? You realize like y'all were only good long distance.
Mm.
And it's
That's good
like,
advice too, because I
mm-hmm.
mean, it seems like sometimes when you're long distance, you get used to the routines of the long distance, but then when you're together, there's the aspect of having to see what the person is like all the time. You see kind of the hidden depths to them that
like
you
never
don't.
putting the toilet seat down.
There you go. Stuff like that. I mean, that's like petty stuff, but there's other stuff that can run deep that you just find you're not matched. Do you feel like you guys have had enough time to sort of feel each other out in that way?
It's getting better day by day. I think our biggest thing is I'm an overthinker, and he has resting bitch face like really bad. And I'll always be like, are you mad at me? Like, did I do something? And he's like, no, I'm just like, he's not a big talker. Unlike
this is me. I just look mad all the time.
He's like, I'm just sitting here. Like, I can enjoy your time and peace. Like, you just sitting here and me sitting here and us watching, videos. And that's our biggest thing is just like, cause I'm type A, he's type B. I'm very open, extrovert, introvert. Like, he's there. Like when he first met my family's like, he's very quiet. And I'm like, he's really not. He just doesn't know you. He's kind of that person at a party that'll sit in the corner until, and he's even said it himself with me. He's like, I would have never gone up to you in a bar. So like, if I saw you at a bar, I would have never gone up to you.
So he's not going to be the person who opens up until he really knows you and trusts you. So, but you get him talking all the time, I'm assuming.
Yes. It's my job. I deal with people. Like, I'm the people industry, so it's that's my thing. Because he's always impressed with, like, he'll even say it like, you can just walk into a room and make friends with 5 people right off the bat. Because I'll just
You're very, very personable. Yeah. You're very good at talking. That it is an art, and he's maybe lacking in that way, but maybe that's what draws him to you.
Yeah, we're very opposites in that way, and like figuring out our communication right now also is the biggest thing because. I'll say what I think, right? It's gotten me in very problematic situations in the past, but I'll say what's on my mind right then and there without thinking, and he needs time to process it. And so our communication is getting better, and I think that's like our biggest step is just, feeling each other out, how we are together, and being able to talk. Because communication is key, but also comprehension is key. Because you can talk left and right, but if they're not understanding it or willing to, work with it, everybody's like, communication is key in a relationship. I'm like, no, comprehension is.
That's true. I think also people have different ways of communicating, and that's not always easy to pick up on. Some people who aren't very verbal will communicate very well non-verbally. You just have to learn to pick up their cues.
Yeah, with the love languages, his is very much like quality time and acts of service. Because
interesting. Yeah. I would have expected touch for him.
Which guys are he hates PDA. Like, I'll try to hold his hand in public. Seriously? And he's like no.
Oh man. Okay.
I know. And we'll be out on dates and I'm like, can I have a kiss? He's like, this is your one kiss. I'm like, wow, that's just mean.
He's not like that at home, I'm hoping, right?
No, he does. Yeah. He's like it. And he's a person that's like, PDA is not supposed to be public. It's supposed to be private. So.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And so his is acts of service and quality time. Because he'll stay over and wake up really early just to take my dog out or do my dishes for me because I'm working a lot right now because of COVID, so he'll do that. But that's the biggest problem because I like words of affirmation.
Okay. Like, I would have expected that from you. Words of affirmation. I guess words of affirmation and quality time would be my two if I were to guess you.
And then I show mine by gift giving. I'm a very big gift giver.
Okay. So yours is active. Is that one of the other? So
it's gift giving, acts of service, quality time, physical touch, and words.
Words of affirmation.
Yeah.
I guess.
There's 5. That's all I know.
5 love languages.
And so I give mine by presents, and then I like receiving words. He likes quality time, but he does acts of service.
Okay. Now, what I'm also curious about is after you got him back, did you ask him about his perspective on the breakup at all? Did you get kind of his side of things?
Oh, we've talked about it. Like, I even told him I was in this program. He thought it was funny. He was like, were you that desperate? I was like, yes, I was. We talked about it, and it was that was like our really big, deep conversation of like, what did he do? Well, I was over here in sobbing in misery. Like, what did he do?
So what was his experience of the breakup?
So he put himself to his work when he returned back to the desert with his guys. Like
distraction, essentially.
Yeah, he distracted with that because he's like, I need to make sure they're fed. We're in 110-degree weather. had to make sure, they were going to be alive because they're 18-year-olds not knowing what the heck they're doing. And when I kept natting him, he was like, at one point, like we were working on a truck or something and I threw an axe and almost hit someone. And yeah, he just like delved into work. And then
Rachel,
he said
you're dangerous.
I
Your
know.
natting is super dangerous.
I know.
Rachel.
It almost killed
Stop
somebody. Someone almost got an axe through the torso. But he said when you stopped talking to me, and he would party on base because they couldn't go out either because they were shut down. He would just drink with his guy friends. He's like, I really miss her. Like slowly but surely he'd be like,
it took time for him to come to that realization.
Yeah, he's like, I really do miss her. He struggled with like, do I let her meet someone there even though I'm going to be back in a couple months? Like, do I let her meet someone there?
Seeing you go to this party where there's other guys who could potentially hit on you is the ultimate inciting incident that causes him to reach out and start like making realize I shouldn't let her go.
Yeah, and he's a pretty smart guy. I mean, some of the male breed are stupid, but he knew.
I can say that is true. I can undeniably say that's true.
He even said, like, he's like, did you post that one picture where you showed your butt just to spite me? And I was like, yeah. Like, he knew I was like, this is what, after we were back together, like, he knew what I was doing. Like, he knew I was posting
sometimes though, I experience they can know what you're doing, but it's still just as effective. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah,
sure.
It did work on him, and he just like slowly but surely realized like he misses me, he misses talking to me, and when he saw me with other males, that's what his alpha male kind of kicked in and was like, never mind, that's mine.
He's like, yeah, give that to me. Oh, yeah, that's great.
And when we started hanging out, like he saw that I had was talking that hello
the other man in your life.
Yes, well, she's a female.
Oh, it's a she. Well,
yes, he's a she.
Okay.
She'll just be in here for right now. Can you please get down? Where was I going at? When she saw
you, I guess, texting other dudes.
Yeah, he saw me texting other dudes, and that's when he was like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, well, I'm not your girlfriend. Like, I can talk to other people. And then he's like, I'm working on it. Okay. And so his mind, he officially wanted to ask me to be his girlfriend when I re-met his family again. And like kind of cleared that.
So that's big for him to reintroduce you to the family.
Because that was his biggest. Because his mother did not like blocked me on everything. Did not want us to be talking to. Yeah, she's a very
stern, I would say.
Yes, very stern woman. So, but yeah, that was the snapping point. Is when he saw like that's like when it clicked. Was when he saw like, hey, she could be taken by other people. And I was like, you told me to do it, so I went and started talking to people, and then you're mad that I did it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't serious about it because he was my person. So.
Right. So, is there any other thing that you learned from the experience that you feel anyone listening could take?
Even when you're in your very low point and you feel like it's not going to work at all. I mean, it can end up working like. Because I kept, I'd read so much into like what you were saying about like breaking no contact lessens your chances. Obviously, it didn't lessen mine to the point. It worked.
Yeah, eventually. It worked out okay for you.
And I think, preaching to the choir, it's like you got to focus on yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, how can someone else love you? That's the thing. And so when I started focusing on myself and finding myself again, that's what drew him back in. So the biggest thing
it's so fascinating because it's a long distance relationship on top of it, So, I mean, we are also not talking enough about like this big meetup that you had. You said like you're always I always say like you need to like build towards this one big meetup. And it seems like that meetup went really well for you, even though you had to drive 14 hours the other way.
Yes. Did 12 hours that way and 14 hours that way.
Yeah.
Like it was,
yeah.
And yeah, like you just got to trust in the process, I guess, which I'm not a very trusting person. So like I was like, this is not working. Why did I do this? And I kind of went off the track a little bit with not texting like you say, and sometimes it's a guideline. It's not a step by step. It's a guideline.
Right, like the Parts of the Caribbean.
Yeah, it's more like
rules, guidelines.
Yeah, I feel like that program, like for some people in their situations, because I know you've seen thousands of relationships.
Hundreds of thousands by this point, I think.
And, you know, we've only been together, you know, a year and a half at the point of the breakup. And I'm the first girl he's ever taken home, the first girl he's ever said he loved. I'm literally his
so you're a big
yeah.
You're a big person for him.
Yeah. And I think when we were discussing like what did he go through, you know, he's never had to handle a serious breakup like this because I'm the first, so he didn't really know how to handle it. So you know, it was new for him.
Yeah.
Like and so with the guy, like, and also going back to like the guideline thing, like I kind of went off the track a little bit and it seemed to work. So.
It did, yeah. So that's the other thing I'm noticing is people calling audibles mid-play and it still works out for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it seems to me like you need to trust your gut because you know your guy better than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't think you breaking the no contact rule like 10 times works so well, but you eventually got it.
Mine was like 3 or 4 and you know.
Three times, right? But you still
3 or 4 in there somewhere.
You still did like you said like you did like a 40-day no contact at one point, right?
Mm-hmm. Like one time I think it was like the second time I broke it, it's because I accidentally had screenshotted something of his Snapchat and it sent a notification to him and I was like, crap. Now I gotta restart it. And but yeah, like my situation I feel like is different and typical because like I've seen on some of the pages these people have been in 10-year relationships and they just suddenly can walk away. So
yeah, I think the problems those people face are different than the problems you're facing. You're more of a newer type relationship. They're more of the, like, we've been together so long, it's getting stale type problem. That wasn't so much a problem in your situation.
And like in my mindset at the time, I was like, you know, how can these people, they've been together 10 years, share kids, like how could they just walk away? And I'm like, I'm hopeless because I've only been together a little over a year.
Yeah, that's the wrong attitude. I mean, it's like comparing apples to oranges because it's two completely different situations.
And Anna actually said that in our coaching, and you know,
yeah,
it helped a lot. She's like, yours is, you know, every relationship's unique.
How old are you, by the way, and how old is he?
I turned 24 actually next week, and he's 24. So we're only like 6 weeks apart. So yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking back when I was 24, I felt a lot like you. You know, so I felt like I kind of had a lot of it figured out, but with time and age and experience, you kind of realize it's not the same. It's a little apples to oranges. So a lot of those thoughts you had about like, well, how can these people get their ex back after being 10 years and they have kids together? It's a lot different situation. Now that I have kids and I'm married, I can kind of understand some of why they walk away sometimes. You have to work to keep that relationship going. And your problem is a lot different because I've also been in a long distance relationship. I married my wife and we were in a long distance relationship for maybe a year, I want to say. And to me, the key with the long distance relationship is always having a plan to close the distance. And luckily you've already done that.
Yeah, so I did it like halfway through the relationship. I was like, I'm moving to where he's going to go back to eventually.
Yeah, but you said you didn't do it for him. You said you did it for the job.
I got with the company and they're like, hey, like, I was like, do you have properties there? And they're like, yeah. I was like, okay, go in there. And, or something I was going to say. I just keep talking. It'll come back to me.
No, well, I think your situation is real fascinating because we don't really have a lot of people that have come on that I've been able to interview for the podcast or the YouTube channel like this who are in long distance relationships. So the one last thing I'd like to get your thoughts on are, what was your key? Did you think there was like a huge difference between an average breakup and a long distance breakup? Like what was your experiences with that?
With a breakup in person, like you can't hide behind your phone if you're standing there in front of each other. And that's like the biggest thing I kind of got PO'd about was I'm like, he can just, you know, shut me off because he just doesn't have to respond to his phone. Yeah. And I think the key was like when we were starting to talk again, like it's just making it flow smoothly. So, you know, he just doesn't just like, you know, block my number and leave because our, you know, this little device right here, so much of our relationship was through this. And yeah, I kind of had to,
those devices are almost everything to us now. If you think about it, I mean,
this is my life.
Most of our online searching habits are here instead of a computer now, which didn't always used to be the the way when I was growing up, it was always the computer that you would
Mm-hmm.
get online. But I just want to take a minute and thank you so much for coming on. Seriously.
Well, I mean, I just want to help people because, my situation, I hope, speaks volumes to people that it can work. Because I was absolutely hopeless. Like I said, I was willing to, start talking to other people and see where it led. Because
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, because, if you can just walk away like that, why can't I? So.